Welcome to KR Films Entertainment Channel. The film opens by showing a man named Lal Singh. At that time, Lear was sitting in a train, and a moment later, a woman came and sat in front of him. The woman saw male's movements, which were considered very strange, so that the woman felt very uncomfortable. But suddenly, Well decides to get another woman, and who knows what happened, but suddenly, Lal tells her about his childhood, and the woman is forced to listen to Well's story. Then the film shows Wale's childhood past. Leal lives in a small village where he is only raised by his mother, who was a farmer because his father was a victim of war and has died. Leal himself was born with a low IQ, so he is not as smart as other children, and because of that, when his mother enrolled him in elementary school, he was always rejected until one day Wale's mother decided to meet the principal, and on that day Wale's mother begged the principal to accept Lale. However, the principal said that Layla below average level of intelligence, so their school could not accept him. Wale's mother also told the principal that she was willing to do anything as long as Leon could be accepted at the school. Even Wale's mother was willing to become a maid for the principal. Finally, after seeing Wale's mother sacrifice, the principal felt sorry for her and allowed Lale to attend the elementary school because he was so stupid when I couldn't even walk straight, and because of that the doctor gave Lale tools so he could walk normally on the first day of school. Looks very strange. In addition, he also could not walk upright because of that. Well was bullied by his friends on his first day at school. Not even a single kid wants to sit next to Lil, but when all his friends bully him, Wale meet a girl named Rupa, and Rupa allows Wale to sit next to her. It turns out that Rupa is a very kind-hearted child, so she is also kinds of Lil. Since that day, the two of them often spent time together and talked about many things. The scene switches back to the present. On the train, a woman who had first looked uncomfortable with Lale then began to be interested in what Lale was telling. Lale says that Rupa is the most beautiful woman he has ever met in his life, and somehow the memories of the first meeting with Rupa keep repeating in his head and he can't forget it. Then Wheel continues to tell the story, and now he tells his relationship with his childhood friend Rupa and Lale, who are still young, are getting closer and spending a lot of time together, from playing to having fun together. Wheel even said that Rupa was one of the people he talked to more apart from his mother. One night, Well is trooper if when they grow up Rupa wants to marry him. However, at that time Rupert did not answer Well's question. Leader Leon continues his story and experience when he visits his aunt's house. Lee says that when he was little he really liked to dance until one day he met a young man who liked his dance to the young men imitated lives move. The film returns to the present. In the beginning only one woman was listening to Will's story, but now it seems that many people are starting to be interested in what Layla is telling because many listen to his story. Will continue to tell that a young man he met where he was little is now a famous person because that young man is Shah Rukh Khan. Of course, when Leon said that, everyone didn't believe because they thought Well was just a braggart. After that, Well continues his childhood story. One day Lale, who's playing with Rupa, is again bullied, but this time his friends throw stones at Lale, unable to do anything. Finally Rupa told Wale to run as fast as he could. Stupidly, I could only do what Rupa said even though his leg was lame, but that moment Leon tried to force himself and ran as fast as he could. Extraordinarily, on that day a miracle happened because suddenly Leon could run upright and very fast. Because of that, Leon is a new hobby which is running, and he spends his time running from place to place. Then one day Lil goes to Rupa's house, but that time Lil sees Rupa crying. The reason Rupa cried the day was because at that time her father was drunk and he forced group his mother for money. Even little Rupa tells Layla that she wants to be rich, so her parents don't fight because Rupa's father is angry because he doesn't have money. What made Rupa even sadder because her father couldn't hold back his emotion, so Rupa, his father, his wife and Rupa, his mother died. Since that day there was no one to take care of Rupa, and because of that Wale's mother decided to take care of her, so that from that day on Rupa lived with Lale. Rupa and Leon kept together until a few years later. In fact, they both studied at the same university. Unfortunately, Wale's childhood friends who used to bully him are also studying at the same place. That's why even though he is in college, Lale is still being bullied. One day Lale, who was being bullied, runs as fast as he can until a track coach sees him and notices Wale's amazing running ability. Because of that, Well is to be the representative for the track race for his university. Unexpectedly, Will always wins for matched. Imagine the running race he takes part in. Then in her final year of college, at that time Rupa was being courted by a very rich and handsome man. One day Lal meet Rupa, who was having a date with that guy. At that time the man who was trying to approach Rupert tried and forced to kiss her, but Rupa didn't want to because they had just gotten to know each other and Rupa also felt uncomfortable. Seeing this incident without thinking, Will immediately slapped the man, and at that moment the man was angry and immediately told Rupa that he would not come near her again. Rupa immediately scolds Whale for doing that. Rupa says that man is a rich man and he can change Rupi's life. Hearing Ruma's words, we feels guilty and they both sit down. At that moment the two of them talked about their future and Rupa said that her dream after graduation was to become a mile or an artist because Rupa wanted to be a rich person, whereas All says that after graduating college his goal is to join the military because it was his mother's requests. Not without reason his mother did that, but because Lau's father, Liv's grandfather, even Land's great-grandfather were all military men. After that, for the second time, Well asks Rupa if she wants to marry him. But again at that moment Rupa didn't answer Whale's question. Then the film returns to the present. On the train more and more people are seen listening to interesting stories from Lail. Everyone is concerned about Layla because they heard his story. We had asked a woman to marry him but had yet to get an answer. At that time Lei just graduated from college and according to his mother's wish Leo enlisted in the military and entered the army. On the first day of attending the academy, Lail, who indeed looked very strange, was again bullied by his friends. Luckily back then there was a guy named Bala who was very kind to Lail. They both chilled and became close friends that day. There are also told Leon that in fact he had expertise and passion in making underwear because his father and grandfather worked as underwear makers. Finally after that Lail and Bama follow the academy. At the academy they need a colonel who was very strict. After completing several days of training the colonel gives the impression that Lail is a genius. Of course at that time Whale was confused because all his life he was always considered stupid. But in fact the reason the colonel branded Lail as a genius was because Leon never disobeyed orders, and what his colonel ordered. Even Legal said that his schooling during elementary school was more difficult than his military academy because at the academy he no longer needed to think critically, he only needed to follow what his superiors told him to do. One day Bai asks Lail if he will learn to make underwear. Leon, who was very innocent, then wants to be taught by Bala. After being taught by Bala unexpectedly it turns out that Lail is very skilled and very thorough in making underwear. Finally in his spare time Layoff finds time to make underwear for Obama as colonel and his friends at the academy. Of course because of that his friends started to like Lail. After several months of studying at the military academy, one night Lail misses Rupa because they haven't seen each other in a long time. That night Well is reading the newspaper and he is shocked because it says that Rupa is being detained by the police. The news stated that the reason Rupa was detained by the police was because Rupa, who was pursuing her dream as a mile, was willing to do work by taking pictures naked. Because of that many people boycotted Rupa, so the police arrested her. After reading the news lately worried about Rupa, and the next day Mail decides to take leave and meet Rupa in Mumbai. Arriving in Mumbai, Leo meet people who are trying to boycott Rupa by humiliating and insulting her. An angry Leon finally saw the people who did that one by one, and after that Well met Rupa. They both talked all night and Rupa asks why again Lol is doing something dangerous for us. Beating up the society is very risky and Rupa requests that Lel not try to protect her any more, but Lel says that he is determined to protect Rupa from everyone who tries to hurt her, even if the person is dangerous. And for the third time Leo asks Rupa if she wants to marry him. At that moment finally Rupa gave an answer that Rupa liked Lil but only as a friend. Rupa also said that their lives were very different, where Rupa wanted to be rich and successful while Lil just wanted to be an ordinary person. After that Rupa leaves Lil, but before that Well tells group of that in a few days will be assigned to the battlefield. Rupa, who really wants to become a famous artist, is willing to become a mistress for a producer, so that she has chosen to play in a film elsewhere. Bai and Lail are assigned to participate in a cardinal war between India and Pakistan radical forces. At night before the war, Bar talks about many things with Lail, starting from telling his wife and children and then his family, until All asks Lail if he wants to open an undergarment business together with him when they both finish their duties in the war, but also explained all his plans. Lail would be handed over to produce while Ball's job would be in the field of marketing. Will agrees and they both make a deal that after the Cardinal War they will open a business together. The next day while heading to the battlefield, Well looks very scared. Balor tries to strengthen and calmly and also reminds him that after this war is over the two of them open a business together. A few moments later they arrived at the battlefield and the situation was very chaotic because of the incessant fire from the opposing side. The commander of the Indian army felt that it was impossible for them to win this war because the number of opposing troops was too much. Finally the commander decided to call in reinforcements to deliver long-range fire. Because of that the Indian troops Leave the place immediately so as not to be hit by long-range fire. Unfortunately, at that critical moment, Well was hit by a bomb, so he was unconscious. Wale's friends try to wake up Lay. They keep screaming and running because of Ball screams. Lale wakes up and he, who is still semi-conscious, is clueless. All he knows is run, and a stupid thing he did was to leave Bala. After running far enough, suddenly Lale realizes that he was just running alone and he has left Bala. Then Well decides to come back again, but after returning to the battlefield, the situation becomes very chaotic and Lale finds it difficult to find Bala because there are many Indian soldiers who were injured and are still alive, and they ask Well for help. Finally, Will carry the soldiers one by one, little run here and there to help his friends, starting from one person to people, 3 people to several people. Even Lale, who is stupid, he accidentally helps his Pakistani opponent. Of course, the Pakistani was surprised when Lale helped him. After helping several people, finally Lale finds Ball with a state that has been shot. The Whale tries to save Bala. Sadly, Bal's injuries were very serious, and that's why shortly after Bala finally died, of course, Little cried very hard because his best friend had passed away. Next, the film returns to the present. On the train, it was seen that the people who had listened to Lil's story of Paul's death also shed tears because they empathize with the death of Wale's best friend. Leo continued his story again with the war was finally over and Lale, who was shot in the buttocks, had to be treated. While being treated, it turns out that Lale is next to an enemy, a Pakistani who had been saved by him. That person's name is Mohammad Pauji. Incredibly, no one in India knew their Mohammad Pauji was a Pakistani who was an enemy party. Even innocent Lale doesn't realize it until that moment. At that time, Will invite him on and Pauji to chat, but Mohammad Pauji just kept silent because actually Mohammad Pauji was not happy but instead sad because he had been saved by Lale and had both legs amputated because he was shot. On the other hand, it turns out that Rupa is still the mistress of the producer, who was also a criminal, and unfortunately Rupa still hasn't gotten what the producer almost a role to play in a film. A few months later, Will was informed by his leader that he received a humanitarian award from the president for what he did on the battlefield for saving several soldiers who took part in demonstrations and wars. The next day, Leon goes to the presidential palace to receive an award. There is also Wale's mother, and of course Wale's mother is very proud of what her son got. After attending the event, Wale's mother tells Wale that he should quit the military academy as his mother does not want Loyal to be in any more danger. His mother told him to go home and Lale complied with his mother's requests as he retired from the army. While the way home by accident, Wale saw Rupa, who was in the car. Without thinking, Wale immediately ran after the car. Lale keeps running until the car stops and hotel, and Rupa is seen leaving with a secret boyfriend, the producer. Wale continues to follow Rupa until he sees the producer being rude to Rupa, seeing Rupa being treated harshly. Wale cannot remain silent. He immediately beat the producer, and the producer, who was a mobster, took out a gun. However, the people there stopped the producer, seeing Lale, who was a military attire and did not want to cause trouble. Finally, Lily's with Rupa. Since they had not seen each other for a long time, the two of them chatted about many things from 9 to morning. Anyway, Rupa says that the man who was hit by Lale earlier was his boyfriend, and actually the man was a good person. However, sometimes it gets out of control and can't hold back as emotions stacked rudely like that. Leon, who has grown up, immediately tells Rupa that he wants to be Rupa's boyfriend and he will not treat Rupa the way that guy did. But again, Rupa refuses Lale because Rupa says that she has to go to Dubai to pursue her dream, and after that again Rupa parted ways with Lale. A few weeks later, suddenly Mohammad Pauji as well to meet the innocently Al happily meets Mohammad Pauji at his house. When he got there, Mohammad Pauji looked very miserable because he lived in a very shabby house and was in poverty. After that, Mohammad Pauji invited Lale to watch a lecture from a new start because Mohammad Pauji is a Muslim. Mom and Pop, she said that the reason he went to the war was because he realized that what was explained by some religious leaders and what was explained in the Quran was sometimes very different, and that was why Mohammad Pauji realized that he went to the war because he had been brainwashed. It turns out that the reason Mohammad Pauji wants to meet Lale is because he still holds a grudge against Lale for saving his life. Mohammad Pauji believes that if he dies in a state of war and jihad, he will go to heaven. Their Mohammad Pauji cursed at Lale and said that he was Label's enemy. After hearing that, innocent Little fell silent. Mohammad Pauji, who was at the lowest point in his life and no longer believed in religion, became an alcoholic. And because his alcohol ran out, Mohammad Pauji invited Lale to treat him to alcohol. Arriving at the bar, Wale tells Mohammad Pauji that he is planning to open an underground business, which was the plan of his deceased best friend Paula. At first, Mohammad Pauji laughed. After hearing Wale's plan, he belittled Lale to open his own business. Either Mom and Podgy said that if Lael managed to open the business, he would voluntarily become a marketing team for Lael. A few days later, as per the wishes of his mother, Lael returns home and starts building his business. Leon started his business according to a plan made by Bomb on ago, and he started buying 3 swing machines and hiring 2 people to make underwear. After several weeks of work, we finally collected thousands of underwear. But Layla confused because according to Bar's plan, someone should work in the marketing department to market his product. Suddenly, remembered Mom at party's words, if he was willing to help Lael in the marketing department, then Lael immediately sent a letter to Muhammad Podgy. Unexpectedly, a few days later, it turns out the Mom and Podgy came to Label's village and said that he would keep his promise. So starting that day, Mom and Podgy became a marketing team to market underwear made by Lil Az. After that day, Will along with Mom and Podgy deliver the undergarments to the shop for sale. But damn, it's been a few days but the underwear produced by them hasn't sold out yet. One day Mom and Pop thought of something. He thinks that maybe what's wrong is not the product but the brand. Earlier Layla branded the underwear with his best friend's name Bala. Finally at that time Mom Podgy suggested that the brand be replaced with a woman's name. Leo thinks about changing his underwear brand to Rupa. A miracle ensues. After legal changes his underwear brand, eventually his sales began to grow. From day to day more and more products are successfully sold. Even after several months later, finally Lael managed to set up a factory. Then the film returns to the present. On the train, people couldn't believe what Lil was telling them because in fact nowadays a company with the name Rupa is one of the biggest fashion companies in India. One of the gentlemen who listened to Lil's story told Lil that his story was very good, but Lil could not lie to them because how could Lil be an inventor of a famous company? Because now Lil is sitting with people in an economy train without air conditioner. Everyone in the train also laughs and thinks that Lil is a braggart until finally Leo show the magazine with a photo of him with Mom and Podgy, who was labeled as the best businessman in India that year. Of course, everyone there immediately fell silent and finally they believed that the founders of the Rupa company were Little and Mom and Podgy. Well, then continues his story again. Since founding the Rupa company, Lael and Muhammad Podgy have become very rich, but Lael never forgets his best friend Paula. So they'll give some of his wealth to Bola's children and wife. One day Mom and Pop saw the news on TV that his country Pakistan was in conflict. Finally on that day Muhammad Podgy told Leon that he wanted to return to his country because he wanted to help the people who are in trouble there. Mom and Podgy also advised Lael not to think about money anymore because of Label's wealth had already been invested. Mom Podgy has also looked for the best people for Live's company, so actually Lael just needs to sit back and enjoy life. Hearing that, Leo is very sad because he has a part with one of his best friends again. But in the end I had to let go of Muhammad Podgy. They both split up. A few days later, Will received news from his village neighbors that his mother was sick. After learning the news, Will immediately decided to return to his hometown. When he reaches home, Will is informed that his mother has cancer and that our time is not long. That's why Lil decided to stay in his village for a few days to take care of his mother at the end of her life. Whale's mother messages him about his wealth. His mother said God only asked Whale to keep just enough and the rest should be given to needy people. After that, Whale's mother passed away. Few days later, Whale carried out the advice given by his mother. He donated part of his wealth to build hospitals and gave them to people in need. Apart from that, Will also decided not to return to his company because Whale's mother gave a message to him to continue the field she had been working on. Because of that, Will became a farmer from that day. After several months of farming, one day Label, who was sitting in front of his house, was shocked when he saw Rupa visiting his house. He doesn't know why, but on that day Rupert decided to go back to her hometown, and since that day Lael and Rupa have lived together. They got closer, and those times were the most beautiful times for Lael because he could live with the person he loved until one night for the umpteenth time, well as Trooper is, she wanted to marry him. Now Will has become a rich man and it is Rupert's dream. Will also promises to take good care of her, but again Rupert just kept quiet. Finally at that time Lael realized that Rupa had never loved him. Finally Lael says that he knows the reason Rupert doesn't want to marry him is because he is stupid. But even though he is stupid, Leon says that he knows the meaning of love. After that leaves Rupa. Rupa, who sees Male angry for the first time, feels guilty and finally she falls loyal to his room. Rupa apologizes and hugs Loyal the more. It became more intimate and finally they both made love that night. In the middle of the night when Layla sleeping, suddenly a policeman knocks on Whale's house. And it turned out that the police intended to pick up Rupa because Rupa's boyfriend, who used to be a producer, was involved in a crime and Rupa was suspected of being involved in it. Because of this, Rupi is forced to go with the police and she does not inform Loyal. The next morning when Lail wakes up, he immediately looks for Rupa because Rupa never told him that she would leave him because he couldn't find Rupa anywhere. Finally laughs pensively and he realized that Rupa had never really loved him at that moment or remember the words of his mother who always said Lail had to forget his past. Finally to forget Rupa, layoffs. Starts running from his village to another village and to several villages. After circling all the villages in his town, Lail didn't stop and he continued running from one town to another. 1 month, 2 months, even Lail keeps running till 1 year. Lail kept running around India until many people knew that Lail kept running. The media also glances at Lail and thinks there must be a reason why Lail keeps running. After 4 years non-stop running around India, Lail is getting famous all over India. In fact, many people fall will to run because people think that Lail is a symbol of hope. Until one day Lail decided to stop running. Of course, the media immediately asked what was the reason for always running for that long, but Lail just kept quiet and didn't answer. After that, Lail decides to go home. On the other hand, it turns out that Rupa started a new life because she has been released from prison. Unintentionally, Rupa sees the news that a crazy man has been running around India for 4 years. Rupa is shocked when she sees that the man is Lail. Rupa immediately sent a letter to Lail and asked Lail to visit Rupa at his new home. When he receives a letter from Rupa, Lail is very happy. Without thinking much, he went straight to the town where his house was about in Atlanta kid to buy the game. Then the movie is back on the train when Lail was telling many people. It turned out on that day he was going to his house and right at that moment Lail stopped in the city where Rupa is live. There little tells the people that he will get off the train. Everyone who listens a little story gave encouragement and hope that Lail could be with Rupa. When he arrived at Rupa's house, Lail was surprised to find that Rupa already had a son. Of course, Lail is very sad and he asks who's the lucky man who can be the father of that child. Rupa immediately replied that his father's name. He was last seen shadow. Lail, who was innocent, can only laugh thinking his father's name is the same as his until finally Rupa said that Lail himself is the child's father. Hearing that, Lail was speechless. Rupa never tells well that in fact after they made love 4 years ago, Rupa was pregnant with little child. Immediately Lail burst into tears because he felt irresponsible to let Rupert take care of the child alone. Leo, who still feels guilty, is trooper if the kid isn't stupid like him. Rupa replies that their son is very smart. Hearing this way, I can only shed tears of joy. And a few days later, Leo and Rupert decide to get married. After that, Lail and Rupa and their child live happily until one day it turned out that Rupa had a very serious illness. And sadly, Rupa passed away before she dies. Rupert tells on that she is very grateful to have met and married Lail. Apart from that, Rupa also says delay on that she believes Lail will be able to take care of their child. At the end of the film, it is shown Lail visiting his grave. Lail said that he really miss Rupa. Besides that, Will also said that their child was a very small child. After that, the film was over. In this film, we can learn from Lail sometimes life just needs to be lived without thinking too much about it. Even though Lail was bullied since childhood and at the end of the film the person he loves dies. But life brings us to experience a lot of suffering and that should not be a problem because in hand there will be happiness. Thank you for watching.